Archie, man, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So tell me what's been going on in your corner of Northwest Ohio, kind of redefining sales software and technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Things are moving fast and moving well. We've got a lot of clients taking advantage of automation these days. So instead of kind of doing the manual efforts that some were doing previous, they've kind of got the plan in place, and the automation is kind of taken over, and that's where we're trying to take these agencies to the next level with our program, and it's been working out excellent.
One thing that as I've kind of gotten to know your company a little bit and just kind of spending some time figuring out, who you guys are, what you do. One of the things that I appreciate is now, and this, I don't know how this sounds, but you guys are unapologetically about just getting the results. I feel like we do exist in some marketing and kind of sales cultures today where it is a little flowery, where it's a little everyone gets a trophy sort of environment. Is that something that is intentional that you've kind of built the company around, or just that you've noticed kind of to try and maybe go against the grain potentially?
Right. Yeah. It's all about, closing more deals in this case. How can we help, help our customers get to the next level? Things have certainly moved from doing things manually, and or even if you're doing things on computers and spreadsheets and all those things. A lot of times people are thinking, oh, I'm using technology, so I'm being very efficient and all that. Well, you may be taking a very small baby step. We're trying to automate those things, and even if you're an office that only has a few people in it, be able to close more business and get more opportunities through automation. And so yeah, I mean, it's really about closing deals. I mean, it's not, if, even if it's, you're in a lot of cases is the case, where an agency might not have, a big technical background. Certainly, that's okay. Sales is all about follow up and closing more deals. And by putting these
Yeah.
best practices in place, we can help them do that. So, yeah, and trying to take things to the next level here.
Yeah, I mean, so let me ask this: what have you seen? Like, what's the biggest kind of misstep or mistake agents have with that sales follow up process?
Well, part of the sales follow up process is that a lot of times people are only following up once or twice with a certain lead, and if they are following up more than that, they're not doing it typically in the right way. So what our system is doing is allowing the contacts, whether they're referrals that are coming in from partners, whether they're internet leads, whether they're even a list that you've ordered, maybe you're doing some cold calling and things like that. When you do get a hold of these guys and do have the opportunities there, you got to make the most of them. And so, with our workflows, as we call them within our system, these are going to, automatically remind you or automatically do that touch at the right times, and with the right look to it, as well as, maybe you're cross-selling. It's going to do those things at the right time and consistently. And if you don't do it, this system's going to tell, that office manager or that agency owner that, hey, these things aren't being followed up with accordingly. And so we're going to continue these workflows, and the system itself is going to continue to work for you until you get that business. It's not going to stop. What you see in a lot of, whether you have a system or not, don't have a system, a lot of times it, even if you have a system that, hey, we're going to work this thing for 30 days or 60 days or something like that, it ends up stopping, or even I'm going to work it up to the X date. I know they, expire here in May. Well, maybe you work it up till then, and then after, if you don't get the business, nothing ever happens, right? Until you maybe do a calling campaign later down the line or something like that. Well, with the workflows, what we're doing is it's going to continue to push that out into the future. Automatic reminders, automatic emails, automatic touches, all those types of things are going to happen automatically without you thinking about it. And so that's the name of the game is making sure that the staff knows who to call, when to call, and if they don't, it's certainly going to stick out within the system here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Archie, but I think a lot of the hesitation, one for an agency that might not have any sort of systems or processes in place to allow a lot of that automation to kind of take over, is like this fear of like offending people, right? Like they think like, oh, I'm being too pushy or whatever. But I mean, if you think about like the number of times that you get called by somebody that you've maybe somehow slipped into their kind of their workflow, most of the time you're just like, man, I don't want to deal with that right now. And then it's the time that they are able to find you that is convenient. What have you guys found as far as, like you said, pushing out beyond the X date? I'm assuming into, we're dealing with follow-ups that last into multiple years. Mm-hmm. What are some of those optimal times and frequencies to really just to help agents kind of start understanding the depth and length that can come with, like you said, proper follow-up?
Yeah, certainly, yeah, like you said, with our best practices around things, for example, X dates, we'll have some different things where, whether it's 30 days prior then to the new X date, it might schedule that follow-up. Maybe even 45 days prior, it'll have an email go out. And then as it gets tighter, close to that X date, we'll rev up those follow-ups. And as you kind of hit on there, a lot of it's around timing. So you're on their time, so you got to hit them at the right time. And so certainly if there's an X date coming up, you want to hit them at the right time, but it's also you might need multiple attempts right around that time in order to make sure that you get that opportunity that you're looking for. And so that's what our workflows do, is it's going to automatically schedule those follow-ups or send those emails, et cetera, that will be at the right times. And you can, if you want, it depends on how aggressive you want to get. We certainly have the best practices, but some agents take it to the next level where they want to be even more aggressive. And that's up to the agents that the workflows can handle being more aggressive or less aggressive. What's nice is you can look at the best practices and kind of come up with your own plan. How aggressive do I want to be? And you can also monitor staff too. So if maybe you've lost a few people here recently, well, that might mean you're not going to maybe be able to make as many outbound calls, perhaps. And so, you might turn some of those workflows that we're doing follow-up calls into maybe emails or something like that, or even if it makes sense, schedule a follow-up text message or something like that. Kind of circumvent some of those things.
Well, I'm curious, what is like, do you remember like the most like aggressive sort of approach you've ever seen an agent take with it? Like what and if you do, like what happened as a result? Like were there any riots in the streets or anything?
What the things when I think about coming real aggressive is I have seen it where agents will certainly schedule 6 phone calls in a day, especially that's typically around an internet lead where there's been a lot of competition around that. Yeah. So it's more or less, a lead has come into the system, you get notified, and you're calling that person basically morning and afternoon, a number of times. I've seen it to where, they might even do 6 calls in a day or so, because it's, it's about timing. There's some competition there. Some of those workflows too, you can designate, leave a voice message or don't leave a voice message. So even if you called, you didn't get a hold of them, you're still, reaching out, sometimes leaving the voicemail, sometimes not. So, to hopefully not abuse it too much here, but I have seen some real aggressive workflows at times.
Well, listen, those internet leads, they're not a joke, man. I started my insurance career selling internet leads. And I mean, if you want to see the darkest depths of humanity, be the 10th insurance person to call somebody in like a matter of 30 seconds. I mean, you will just know exactly every inadequacy you have in life. Right. And it's a good time. I mean, it really builds you. It hardens you. So no, I mean, but yeah, it's fun though. So all right. So internet leads one thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a bunch of different ways, like you said, like from referral partners. I'm assuming we're dealing with like mortgage brokers, lenders, those types of things. Are those again? What does that look like of working the different types of leads? What we've obviously kind of set the precedent that an internet lead is obviously one of the more aggressive environments that you can operate in. But like, how do you guys? What have you seen from just from a wide sample of adjusting those follow-ups and what works best within like a particular set? Better question. What's the sweet spot for like the type of leads that you see working best in a in an automated environment to kind of have the least path of resistance?
Well, in terms of I guess as far as the workflows are, like I said, very flexible, and whether you want to be extremely aggressive or less aggressive, they can work with any type of lead source in that. Certainly, I would say referrals are very popular, within the industry as a top thing. So if you can get referrals, you typically don't have as much competition there because it's not like certainly an internet lead or something like that, or it might not need to be acted on immediately. But it is something where you want to make sure you're following up with those because those are excellent leads. And so, what we see is agents using our web forms, so you can generate a URL basically out of our system. You can customize that form to look however you want, with colors, with fields. What fields do you want on that? And you can give that link to, and you might have a number of different sources. So you give one link to your, mortgage partner over there. You might give one to I don't know. So you maybe know somebody at the car dealership down the road. You could even use that when you're doing a home and garden show. We'll have agents that'll go to a show like that, and they'll just be on their iPad and they have their form and just fill it out. Or even if the person wants to fill out their information, they can. The nice thing about the forms is it's a form in which you don't have to enter a username and password. It's just a web form as such. And so you enter that information in, it'll transfer to your Blitz system automatically. And then, like I said, it's part of your automated assignment. So it's assigning to the person. It's automatically putting on schedules. It's automatically then each day putting the proper follow-up plan in place for those. So that's, referrals are big. Social media, this form can be used within social media. We've seen that work out well too. So between events, social media, giving it directly to referral partners, that's big. And that's, I would say, the top source. But again, you're going to have workflows that can be based off that source. So if you don't want to be as aggressive with a referral as an internet lead, certainly, then those can go down two different paths in terms of the initial follow-up process. Once they're quoted, they might fall into the same path. So, there's a lot of flexibility there. And then, once you do close a deal, it's like, what is your process after things are closed? You want to make sure that you don't forget those types of things. Okay, it's a welcome packet, or 7 days after, asking about life insurance, or things like that down the, and then later asking for referrals. Include that web form in a URL. Oh, do you know anybody interested in a quote? Have them fill out this form. Well, if they do, that's going to come right into your system too. So all those things you don't have to think about. I closed a deal, and then hopefully 30 days later, you've gotten some referrals, you've gotten some cross-sell opportunities out of it, and you didn't have to think about it. So a lot of these agents, I have to make a phone call in order to do this. Well, you don't, or you forgot, to be reminded about it. And so you want to go down that consistent path each time.
Yeah, well, one of the things that, as I talk to more and more agents, that obviously the mortgage guys and the referral partners in that area of the business are huge. And I am surprised in a lot of cases when it is still too much of a manual process to where like they're relying on, there is no really nice, formal, seamless process to allow those referrals to come in and then kind of automatically move them through and kind of closer to, doing business with your agency. It's like, oh, well, we get them, and then, we reach out personally or whatever. It's, and just the ability to, again, like you said, give that link out to the mortgage guy and say, hey, send your people here or whatever. And then that triggers the events. And has that been successful for the, a lot of the agents that you work with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's really it's buying into the automation. So instead of, you'll see with some of these systems where they're, they might have some sort of follow-up plan, and they're kind of moving a referral or a lead from one kind of plan to the next, and it's a manual activity, and somebody within the office is deciding that, we should follow up with it this way or that way. Well, what ours does is you decide as that, you decide on that plan as the agency, whether it's using our best practice or tweaking that best practice, whatever the case, and or creating a whole new set of workflows that are set for you. I mean, we have agents that are doing stuff around, I want a workflow to kick off when, a minor, is set to come on to their policy, or other, unique things, or something's going to fall off a policy or something like that. There's a lot of different flexibilities there, but the main thing is taking the thinking out of it. So come up with those plans at the start. Look at our plans. We can help you tweak them if you want, no problem. And then, from there, it's letting the plan work for itself. So instead of you deciding what to do, or somebody in your agency deciding what to do, it's just update the lead or referral accordingly, and it's going to trigger the appropriate flow downstream. So take the thinking out of it is a big part of our program.
Yeah, I mean, so much as you tell agents, and I've seen this in a number of different kind of we'll say tools that help agents, is that when you say it can do anything, well, I mean that's great, but agents have a hard time with the imagination part of it, right? Like then you're just giving them more homework and saying, well, listen, let's put this in a nice neat bucket for you, or a box to say it can do this at this time. These are the best times to do these things, and these are the activities that we're really trying to kind of get after. What is, I'm assuming, again, back to that aggressiveness, like how would you, advise an agent that is looking to dip their toe in the automation to say, like, well, how do I not let this run wild on me? How do I keep in front of it? Again, because that is one of the fascinating things about, some of the stuff that we've talked about that you guys have the capability of doing is allowing it to be dynamic in the sense that it's going to adjust to the things that are happening. How do you kind of keep it on a leash, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to certainly look at, how many people are in your office, how many leads or referrals you're typically getting within a week or month's time, and then kind of gauge things a little bit from there. I mean, you certainly don't want, I have a 2-person office and they've got, 500 follow-ups tomorrow. And so we help you through those workflows. That's why we come with the best practices, but certainly we can help you, sort through the do's and don'ts, and we have resources certainly within the system too, whether it be with our videos and help desk and all that related items that will help guide you as well. But I mean, there's certainly do's and don'ts, and that's why we kind of, when you do a workflow, you can turn them on and off as you wish, but we actually help you set them up. So I guess it's another really good part of the service with our company here is the fact that we actually are setting up the workflows for the agents. They don't have to think about it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, again, like I said, a huge stumbling block. Where is maybe, again, kind of hedging on some of those fears, but if an agency would be from the outside appear to be like a modern, like forward thinking agency, but a lot of the times I am surprised there's very little kind of automation under the hood in some respects. What would be some of the first places that you would think would be easy to start with? Existing platforms that they might have just to kind of test it to see if they can build it out, or do you think should they just kind of dive all into a platform and then ultimately just kind of take full advantage of it?
Yeah, I think part of it is really you're deciding on the follow-up process there, but the simplicity part of it is just the fact that it's, for the most part, do your job. You called this person, you talked to them, and maybe you quoted them. Well, you'd update that lead accordingly within the system. And so it's really just, putting a note, marking the status or milestone accordingly. And, that the workflow stuff is going to really trigger more behind the scenes. So that's going to run later and schedule that follow-up for the next day, or it's going to automatically send that email, or maybe there's a day lapse in between there. Maybe you're not being as aggressive there. So we try to make it simple. I think you can jump in pretty quickly and easily. We've had many do that, and I don't think there's much of a a learning process. It's more or less, do your job. And then, in terms of the follow-up processes, do you want to start with the best practices? Why don't we start from there? You can tweak them accordingly if you don't, see it as being as aggressive or least aggressive, or maybe you want to add to what's already there. Maybe you got some specialized processes today within your office that, after a sale, you do a bunch more things. Okay. That's unique to you. So those can be added there. They can be unique scheduled follow-ups that tell you to do this or that. And so we've seen that. But I would say these are workflows that are tested, they're tried, they're true, they're proven. And so I don't have any objections with getting started with them, out of the gate.
Yeah. What are just a couple of those best practices?
Some of the best practices, it really depends. To give you an example, if you're doing internet leads, you're going to, as the internet lead comes into the system, so it gets submitted, it comes into the system, it's going to automatically, assign it out accordingly. So we're going to make sure that you have an assignment group set up to assign to the people that you want within the team. Once it's assigned out, then, if it's an internet lead, for example, you're typically going to have, and we'll gauge with the agent, but you're going to certainly have it at least scheduled to be called right there and then. With our dialer technology too, that's kind of, something that you can add on to this as well, to where you can have it actually ring that person's phone as soon as the lead comes in. So that's a call you have to make on aggressiveness, but that's certainly something that's there. But we recommend, certainly with internet leads, that you're going to be very aggressive. Certainly, those first 7 days are going to be extremely aggressive, and then it'll, dive on further. Hopefully at that point you get into a quoting situation where you have got a hold of them, you have quoted them, and then it's going to fall out of that workflow and get into, a quoted workflow. And certainly it can be, a bit different. It might be aggressive there for a couple of days after the quote, and then hopefully you can kind of get into the sales situation. So if not, you don't get that business the first time around. That's the way the program works, is you're going to certainly have that opportunity down the line. And so,
and when people are kind of getting all the way through the process, how important is like that reporting data, that like the ability for you guys to kind of paint a picture of the stuff that they're doing? Like how revealing of a look is it into, again, their activity once things are kind of being automated and tracked? What are some of the big surprises that you maybe see agents kind of discover through that process?
Well, it's really neat. I love to hear the stories of, hey, I had a morning meeting. I came into the office and wow, I had already sent out 50 emails. I really didn't do anything to do that. And hey, I've actually got a couple responses back and people that are interested in talking soon. So it's, getting those opportunities without doing anything. So you're busy doing other things, and it's kind of, working while you're sleeping, or working while you're not doing, doing the actual activities. And so that's when it's really exciting, is the fact that those things are paying off, as well as, if you're an agency owner, you want to make sure that your staff is consistently doing their job and staying on top of those leads that maybe you've paid for, those referrals that you generated, all of those things that you've invested in. They're like gold. You want to make sure that those things are followed up with. And so, with this system, if you're an agent, it's nice. Your staff has come in that day. They shouldn't have any questions, because all of these things are already on their schedule. They're prioritized accordingly, and they're at the right times in that. And so it kind of gives you that ease of knowing that, oh, I don't have to put all these things on my person's schedule. And if they don't follow up, I come in. It's like a scoreboard. It already tells me, oh, Jimmy here has got 15 neglected leads, and oh, looks like through our automation, we've had, a ton of, scheduled follow-ups. We've got a, bunch of email responses. We can see who's opened emails, who's clicked on links within our email. And all of those types of things are there and functioning consistently. I think that's the big thing. Is it's people get busy, agencies get busy. It's hard to stay on task, and with this system, it's going to continuously be there. And so even if you have gotten busy and maybe you've gotten behind, these things aren't going to be lost. So you're still gonna it's still going to be there for you, and those touches are still going to happen to allow you to close more business down the line here.
Yeah. Well, one cool thing that we didn't get a chance to mention yet is you guys are actually going to be hanging out at Elevate. And are you actually coming, Archie? Who's coming from the team?
Yes, we'll have a couple representatives there, myself included. So this, appreciate the opportunity to be there this year. It'll be first time attending here. It'll be Archie Heinl here, myself, as well as Dalton Buck. He'll be there as well. So we look forward to the opportunity to meet more agents, and we're excited.
Yeah, it's always good to, like I said, it's one thing that I do find fascinating is when you get just a bunch of people that are really trying to kind of push the industry forward in one room. It's always exciting. What do you get out of that, like kind of mixing it up in the same environment? Like, do you ever walk away from, an event like that? It's like, oh man, like you talk to those guys, or, you start comparing notes of who's doing what and how that informs, like, kind of what you maybe want to do moving forward.
Yeah, certainly. With technology, things are always changing, which it's neat to be in the technology space with software and seeing how agents can leverage our software and drive more business. And you're always looking kind of for the next things, and we're constantly planning for those, and it's good to see get feedback from the agents in terms of what are their new challenges, what are their new problems. The insurance space is changing, so you kind of have to certainly be at events like this. We're looking forward to, and gauging what's happening.
Yeah, real quick, Archie, before we wrap it up, where should people go to try to connect with you prior to the event, to reach out, learn more about what's going on over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of what was talked about today is our Blitz sales software. So it's now, Blitz.com. So if you go to nowblitz.com, you can really look in deep dive into our automation. Along with our automation, as with all our products, we try to eliminate the manual activities. And so with our auto dialer, which plugs in a couple different spots within Blitz, even where it's an auto dialer, it's TCPA compliant. It's improved with a number of major insurance companies. It's a tool in which you can automate your dialing, eliminate kind of the manual dials that you might be doing today. And that's at call-logic.com. So you can find our product, and that again plugs into our Blitz software too. And then thirdly, if you want to see, we're kind of in a holding company type of setup, if that makes sense. We have our site doubleasolutions.net, DOUBLEA solutions.net, which is our holding company, and you'll see the Blitz and CallLogic products within there that are being offered. We do offer some other things outside of the insurance space as well, but
all right, Archie, last question for you. I'm kind of excited to see where this goes. With everything on the table that you guys are doing and kind of mixing it up in the industry, what's like next? What's on the horizon? Like, what's one thing that you're thinking, man, like it's starting to occupy more and more space. What's the next thing that you guys got to really start to focus on that you think is that next wave of kind of helping agents out?
Yeah, I think as with a lot of technology and a lot of where things are going is certainly around artificial intelligence. So we're looking at different ways for which we can incorporate artificial intelligence within the space. So we're looking at a number of different things that way, even some different options as it relates to some voice to text options and other things too. So I think certainly where a lot of technology is going is utilizing some of the, we've got business rules today within the workflows, but now it's taking that next step with artificial intelligence and seeing, what are some other ways. I've done a lot of research in terms of what other programs are already doing or kind of doing to a certain extent, but I think there's a lot to be had in that space.